how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Usagi Podjimbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and I think we're on episode 6 today. Finally on episode 6, past the samurai story, but we're moving on to a short story called Kappa. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Thank you for listening. If you want to leave a review, you can do so on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps me very much. Helps the podcast out, and if you want to give me some feedback, that's good. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you like, what you dislike about the podcast. You can find me on social media at Twitter or Instagram on Usagi Podjimbo, or my Facebook page, Usagi Podjimbo. But yeah, go check it out. Check out the other episodes in this listing for podcasts that we got going on here. Hope you guys enjoy this and stick around. Yeah, well, we might learn something together because I am sort of new to the Usagi Yojimbo world, like I said before, and we're going through this entire thing. So let's get into it, and let's have some fun. So we start out in a marsh. Usagi is walking around in a marsh. It's late at night. It's dark. A little creepy outside, not gonna lie. But Usagi's walking through. He happens to notice that there's some wild cucumbers growing about, and he thinks this is very unusual because it's very late in the season, and the cucumbers normally don't grow at this time, But you see him, and you see him munching on some cucumbers. He's like, munch, 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 munch. I think Usagi likes him some cucumbers, and you hear something in the distance, and he's like, a toll must be paid, a toll. And Usagi's like, oh, what? A Kappa. And the Kappa shows up, and it's like this green turtle thing with webbed hands and claws. It looks very like if like a turtle fucked a goblin. That's what it kind of looks like. But he has like part of his head chopped off, and he has like a bowl of water, like just sitting in his head. Not like a bowl of water, but like it's like his head, top of his head's like hollowed out with water in it. And you see, he's like, oh, a toll must be paid to crush. You must pay me something. And Usagi's like, hey, you want these cucumbers I found? I think you might like these cucumbers. And the goblin, I was saying the goblin, the Kappa's like, yeah, go on, pass through. And Usagi's like, oh, it's good to see that I had these cucumbers. I found these cucumbers, so I can bribe the Kappa. And you see Usagi walking off, but he's still thinking about this Kappa. And he starts talking about it. He's like, yeah, if the Kappa spills its water out of its head, it'll be helpless and it'll die. Luckily, one of its weaknesses is cucumbers. But he also calls the Kappa a vampire. I guess the Kappa kind of is like a vampire. Well, I don't really know much about Kappas, but from what we tell in the story, he likes to suck the life out of people, kind of like vampires. But he's like, it's still funny. Usagi still thinks it's funny that he found cucumbers growing out in the wild in this season, and he finds this house in the distance, and you see somebody standing in the doorway, and they're like, oh, samurai, come in, samurai. Usagi's hoping that maybe possibly he can get something to eat and go from there, because Usagi has been traveling down the Wanderer's Road, and yeah, maybe Usagi will find something good to eat and possibly relax and chill out for a bit. So Usagi makes it into the house. He meets this nice old lady who we never actually get to see her face. Her face is shrouded behind some hair. She has like a gray skin color, wearing like a pink and white kimono with really long gray hair. She looks a little suspicious. Just gonna say that right now, a little suspicious. But Usagi says thank you for the meal, and he's eating with this woman as she's like sewing something. I don't exactly know what it was, but he starts talking to her, and Usagi's like, I saw this Kappa out there, and I gave him some cucumbers, to satisfy him. Hopefully he'll be satisfied. And he's like, you pick any cucumbers? You pick the cucumber? Or no, sorry. She says, you pick the cucumbers? You pick the cucumbers? He's like, yeah, I picked the cucumbers. It was fortunate to find them. And you see this woman, she bursts out and starts crying, and she's wailing, and Usagi drops his food, and I feel bad for Usagi. He obviously must have been tired, but he drops his food, and you see an old woman, it's okay. And she's like, oh, my son, my son is supposed to come today. He will have nothing to offer the Kappa. So it turns out that the payment that Usagi used for the Kappa was left there by the old woman because her son was supposed to show up today. You see Usagi. Usagi is on a mission to go rescue this poor young samurai from the Kappa because he has no payment to pay the toll. So I like this. I love this scene. Usagi is walking. He's a rabbit on a mission. He has a purpose, and you can see he is angry. He's like, oh man, I fucked up. Basically, you get when you get in that angry mood, and you're like, oh shit, I fucked up. I got to go make this right. And when you see Usagi sees the Kappa, and the Kappa is like, sort of like not really hugging on to the samurai, but he's like, sort of like, oh yeah, you're mine. And the samurai has this blank look on his face, and he's like, you don't have the payment. It's okay, we'll find a payment. Yes, we will. We'll find a payment. Yes, we will. And Usagi is surprised, and he's like, release Kappa, release him. And the Kappa is not having it right now. And the Kappa is like, this guy has no toll, so he will pay the toll with his life. I'm gonna drown him and suck the life out of him. And Usagi draws his sword, and he's like, not today. You're not gonna do this. This was my fault. He doesn't have the toll. So he goes and he swings at the Kappa. And the Kappa dodges him and goes into the water. And this part is really cool. I like this part, where the Kappa like jumps out of the water like a well, he is a monster, but like almost like Jaws-esque kind of. He jumps out of the water and he drags Usagi down to the bottom of the lake or the marsh, and Usagi is definitely struggling. He manages to get out of the Kappa's grasp and make it to shore. And the Kappa's like, oh, you will not escape. And Usagi is coughing, trying to catch his breath. And, the Kappa runs over to Usagi. He's like, my first victim is underwater. And you'll be my next victim. And Usagi is mad. You see this look on Usagi's face. And he's like, Rrr. And Usagi lunges for the Kappa. It grabs him. And you have this scene where the Kappa is scratching Usagi's face. And it looks like Usagi is almost like strangling the Kappa, like trying to strangle him. But he actually happens to let or force the water out of the top of the Kappa's head, spilling everywhere. And Usagi barely makes it out alive with this formidable opponent, which Usagi didn't want to fight in the first place. That's why he gave him the toll and stuff like that, because Kappas are pretty deadly apparently in this universe. And Usagi says, you will die within hours, because your water is spilled out. I will spare your life, Kappa, if you release your victim. And he's like, you have to agree to this. You have to agree to these terms, because you keep your promises, and he agrees. The Kappa, I guess, reluctantly agrees and runs off into the marsh. And our issue ends with Usagi saving the fellow samurai, the one who he met his mom. And Usagi's like, fortunate your mother was around, was able to tell me you were going to arrive today, and I came to help you. She left you some cucumbers, but I actually took them. I'm sorry about that. Come now. She has a hot meal waiting for you at home. And the samurai is like, wait, what? what are you talking about? Like, my mom's been dead for over a year. She she herself was a victim of the Kappa, and he was on his way to basically pay his respects to his mother. Uh, she died a year ago, and she was going to her grave. And Usagi has this like freaked out uh, expression on his face. And he's like, "Oh, what the fuck is going on?" And that's where our issue ends. Uh, and with a really creepy, ghostly ending, I have to say. So I have to say, this was a really interesting issue, if I do say so myself. Um, Low key, I feel like I learned something about kappas today, which was I didn't think I would learn about, but because I don't know that much about kappas. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to see like how Usagi went about tackling this situation he got himself into. Um, with him kind of causing the situation by taking the cucumbers and stuff like that. One thing that I'm really interested about is what who prepared the food for Usagi? Did Usagi prepare the food, or did the ghost lady prepare the food for Usagi? Because Usagi goes to this house and the lady's supposed to be dead for over a year, so did the ghost do all this stuff to which I that's what I'm thinking happened, is the ghost prepared all the food and stuff like that. Um a little creepy to find out that Usagi ate some ghost food. Uh but that's beside the point. Uh this issue had very much a horror element to it. I found the Kappa to be very creepy, and the situation that Usagi got himself into when he was drowning in the water. I felt for Usagi, uh, and it was a very tense situation. Now, I'm currently reading from the Usagi Yojimbo Origins trade paperback, and it's in color. So I'm really interested to see what this looks like in black and white, because in color it looks amazing, and I love the way Stan Sakai plays with the colors of the mixing the black and blue for the background to set the ambiance in the scene, and it's a very like gloomy, uh, like marsh, like very scary marsh, and it's interesting to see like how he went about doing that. So I want to see the black and white version now. I might have to go pick that up so I can check that out, because I do have some of the black and white trades later on after this. Uh, but yeah, it was interesting to see, and a nice little short story to round things out from the longer story that we had before, which is the samurai story. So we got a nice little short story. It was fun, little creepy and intense. I liked seeing how Usagi dealt with the situation, and it was yeah. I wouldn't expect that to happen, like Usagi to go and do that. But Usagi did fuck up in the situation, so he's got to make up for what he did, and he can't let somebody pay for the mistakes that he made. Which good on Usagi, good character for him right there. But yeah, this story did feel a little bit shorter than the other story, like the other the samurai story. I mean, the samurai story was longer, but page wise, this did seem shorter than the last two that I read. Uh, but that's beside the point. It's still made for a good, compelling story. And Sagi just pops in this situation and goes about his day, and he goes on to another adventure. We'll see exactly where he goes next, which I'm really excited to see. Which I think the next issue or next story is A Quiet Meal, which looks like another short story, and then we have the which I'm really looking forward to get to, is the pig, the blind pig swordsman, which looks really cool. I started to read some of that after I read Kappa, but I like these little short stories. They're fun. Uh, I think I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. Because sometimes with like the short stories, like sort of like anthology pieces, they're always a little hit or miss for me. But I did enjoy this short story, and Usagi fucked up, so that's the name of the game. He messed up, but he made things right. I'm really interested to. I wonder if maybe they'll revisit this at some point and they'll go back to the ghost lady because it was very left open ended and very vague on like, oh shit, like this happened, but did it happen? Like, you know what I mean. But we'll have to see if they come back and kind of revisit this. We'll see. I don't know, but thanks for always as listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed this episode, and I'm not even listening to it. I'm recording it myself. But thanks for listening. If you would like to check out my other podcast called Otakuology, it's on all major podcast platforms. Go check that out. We talk about anime, manga, and movies. But yeah, we're moving on to more Usagi Yojimbo. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for listening. Remember to like and follow on whatever podcast platform you choose to listen to, and give me some feedback if you're open to giving me some feedback. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace out. Stay safe. Go read some Usagi Yojimbo.